Hey, how's it going? Welcome to this video. My name is Chris, and if you're new to this channel, essentially what I do here is I talk a lot about like local lead generation, Google Ads, all that kind of stuff, and I like to try to provide as much value here to talk about some of the ways you can actually go and generate more leads for your business. And today, as you might be able to tell from this intro slide, we're going to be talking specifically about the junk removal space. And I've been running some campaigns in this space, seeing pretty good results, and I thought that it would be a good idea to kind of put all that together and put together sort of a tutorial on everything that I've been seeing. So just to kind of start things off, I wanted to kind of, not to like brag about my results or anything like that, because honestly these could be better. But I wanted to kind of show you some of the results that I've been getting on some of the campaigns, just so you can see this isn't just theory. I didn't just like read this out of a book and I'm putting together some kind of like value bomb content kind of stuff. I wanted to put together an actual, usable piece of information that you can take and implement for yourself. So just to set some expectations before we jump into things, my intention for this whole video is to give you kind of like as much of a detailed framework as I can potentially give you, based on what I've seen and what's worked in other niches and this niche. And this isn't going to be necessarily like a step-by-step training, because honestly, like, there's a couple reasons for that. That would take hours upon hours to actually cover, because that includes things like landing pages, a lot of like the technical stuff. And the reason for that is like a lot of that information, that step-by-step stuff, is already online, especially with the landing page building and all that kind of stuff. Like, the way I build it might be different than the way you might build your landing pages and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't want to go in the weeds on that. But really what I wanted to do is give you a framework that's specific enough where you can actually go step by step, follow this, and then kind of get those other bits of information that would be specific to you and your business. So, like this last point here, I think it would be a disservice for me to just say, hey, just copy and paste this. Because in the world of marketing, nothing is ever copy and paste. In the world of marketing, business, everything, nothing ever works that's copy and paste. So there's always testing, there's always things that you need to kind of tweak and change for your own business. So, and one thing is, you probably noticed, I get pretty low tech on these videos. My focus is really to make this as valuable as possible, and not make this super pretty or anything like that. So what we're going to be doing for this whole video is I've got slides that kind of like give you more information on things, but I'm actually going to go through a Google Ads account that I'm going to set up from scratch, kind of build things out and take you through the process of that. And yeah, so if you're new to Google Ads, you can actually just kind of skip through all this intro stuff and then move forward. I'll probably put a little marker on the video, move forward to the actual account setup, and you can jump to that. But if you are new and you need to get some of this kind of intro information out of the way, feel free to stick around and I will cover all of that. So let's jump into some of the tools you're going to need. So the number one thing, obviously, you're going to need a Google Ads account. The other thing you're going to need is you're going to need a way to build landing pages, and we're actually going to go over what landing pages are a little bit later, what they should look like, all that kind of stuff. I personally use WordPress, but there's a lot of different tools out there. There's Lead Pages, Unbounce, Instapage, all that kind of stuff. And you might be able to use Wix or Squarespace. I'm personally not a pro when it comes to those platforms. I've never really used them that much, so you might be able to do this. Don't quote me on that. But I'll go over what a landing page is later, and you can kind of see if you can use that platform. And then call tracking software, not 100% needed, but I would highly recommend it. I personally use CallRail, but there's also other things like call tracking metrics. Now let me actually jump over and show you some of these things so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need, if you don't have it already, is you're going to need to set up a Google Ads account. It's very simple to do. Pretty much what you do is you just go to ads.google.com. You're going to see a page that looks something like this. And if you have an account already, you're just going to hit sign in, and we'll get to kind of setting up your campaign in just a little bit. If you don't have an account, hit start now. It'll take you through all those steps that you need to go through to get an account set up and kind of get things moving there. Now, moving on, let's talk about landing pages. So I talked about some of the different tools that are available. This is an example of Lead Pages. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and I think the best thing for landing pages is to not overcomplicated. It doesn't need to be like custom coded and all this kind of stuff. I just like to use drag and drop builders. This is a pretty good example of them, and it's one of the cheaper ones. So if I go to the pricing here, if you're to pay monthly, the standard is about $37 a month, which is not bad when it comes to landing page builders and stuff like that. Like I mentioned before, I build all my stuff on WordPress. The reason for that is I already have hosting accounts and all that kind of stuff, but that can get a little bit complicated if you don't have kind of the more like techie web development kind of skills, I would definitely stick to something like this, like Lead Pages. Another good one is Instapage. The only thing with Instapage is it is definitely more expensive. I think this is really more of, geared towards agencies and people that work with clients and stuff like that. So Instapage is a good option. Another good option is called Unbounce. That's Unbounce, Unbounce. They are also a pretty solid landing page builder. And finally, one thing you definitely want to consider is setting up call tracking. I personally use CallRail for all of my clients. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. And the reason that these are great, these call tracking softwares, is you can actually, in some markets, not all markets, but you can get a recording of the phone call so you can see if it was a quality lead, if it was not a quality lead. And you can essentially have a record of everybody that called, whereas if you don't have this set up, on Google Ads, you're just going to have, a number that says, hey, you got 5 phone calls this month. You're not going to have any other information outside of that. So something like CallRail is really, really good for really keeping track of things. And then also, if you're interested, recording those phone calls for later. And their pricing is pretty solid. It's not too bad. You can do a free trial. The starting package, which, if you're just going to be running this for your business, usually this starter package is fine. It's $45 a month, and that'll cover everything you need, because you really only need maybe 1 or 2 phone numbers. And so this is kind of the tools you'll need. You need the Google Ads account. You're gonna need some way to build landing pages, and then ideally you want to set up something like CallRail, so you can essentially generate a phone number that records all the phone calls. And so let's kind of keep going here. All right, so now that we've covered the tools and everything like that, one thing I like to cover before we start getting into all the technical kind of stuff is I want to make sure that we get in the right mindset first before we start, spending money on ads or anything like that. Because when it comes to marketing and advertising, there's a certain mindset around it that will contribute more to success. Whereas, if you're kind of approaching it the wrong way, you're looking at it trying to get quick wins and all that kind of stuff, you're probably going to end up getting disappointed and quit before you even see results. So let's make sure we knock this out before we actually get into building out a campaign. So some things to keep in mind. One thing that you'll probably notice through this process, this is going to seem tedious, especially with Google Ads. The biggest thing I can say is embrace that tedium and don't get lazy with the process. Because if you don't, let's say you check the wrong option or you don't build out the campaign properly or anything like that, Google will just spend your money. They will just eat your money. And I'm sure you've heard this from other people, oh, Google charged me $1,000. I didn't get any results. That can happen if things are not set up properly. If you kind of skip out on some of the harder steps or the tedious stuff, Google can easily spend your money, and you'll be left with no leads and lose $1,000 or something like that. So the biggest thing with that is it's not really a Google thing. It's just they're doing essentially what you told them to do. So they're not really at fault. It's just you need to kind of take responsibility for, I need to make sure this is set up properly so that we don't find ourselves in that position where, we spent $1,000 and got nothing back. So that's the first thing, is embrace that tedium, don't get lazy, and make sure all that stuff is done. The second thing here is you're always going to need to test. Kind of like I alluded to earlier, there's no such thing in any kind of marketing or advertising or anything that is completely and totally cookie cutter. You can never really copy and paste your way to success. There's always going to be little things you need to test, tweak, because every market's going to be different. Your business is going to be different. And there's no such thing as a magic bullet. I can give you everything that I know, but you're still going to have to test and tweak things moving forward. Another thing you want to keep in mind, another thing you want to kind of wrap your head around, is getting familiar with how the Google Ads auction system actually works. I'm not going to go super in depth on this right now because there's probably a million different YouTube videos and articles and everything about how it works really, technically and specifically, but I'll give you the cliff notes here. So essentially the way it works is the Google Ads auction is kind of like a gamified auction, in the sense that it doesn't rely fully on just, business A bid more than business B, so business A shows up higher on the page. The way it works is it factors in how much you're bidding, how much you are willing to pay for a click, but it also factors in how well your account performs. So let's say business A is bidding $10, they're willing to pay $10 for a click. Business B is willing to pay $8 for a click. But if business B's, ads and campaigns and everything perform better than business A, Google is going to look at that and say, okay, we're actually going to rank business B above business A even if they're bidding less, because their account performs better, the stuff is more relevant, and that's kind of how it works. So you get rewarded for having an account that performs better, and we'll get into all that as we go. So if that sounds a little bit overwhelming and you want to kind of understand this a bit more, you can pause this video now and go check out some of those other tutorials and how it works if you're not familiar with how it works. But the whole idea is you want to make sure you're bidding competitively and that your campaign is performing well, because at the end of the day, Google really wants to serve the most relevant content to their users. So as long as you have the most relevant ads or most relevant landing pages, you're going to do fine as long as you're bidding competitively. So what I recommend for a junk removal campaign to start is probably around $50 a day. And that's $50 a day, 5 days a week. So that's about $1,000 a month. For some people, that might be too much. You can start a little bit lower. But the thing with starting with a lower budget with Google Ads is, we'll go into this a bit later, but if you're not spending enough, you're just not going to see enough traction quick enough, and you're not going to be able to make changes and improvements. And also, if you're spending too low, that you're not going to be able to bid enough for a single click, which means you're probably not even going to show up. So you need to, kind of be able to invest enough up front to actually be competitive in the marketplace. And if that means taking that 5 day, $50 5 days a week and shrinking that down to like $50 for 3 days a week, that would probably put you in a better position instead of saying like, oh, I'm only going to spend $20 a day, 7 days a week or 6 days a week or whatever. Kind of making sure you have that budget in place. So, and then one last thing I want to touch on when it comes to mindset is really kind of wrapping your head around like, this is going to take time. Don't expect to hit home runs immediately, especially if you're starting out. It's going to take some testing and tweaking and kind of like getting your feet wet and really trying to figure it out as you go. For example, for myself, like I can get leads in the first few days of a campaign running, but it still takes months to get it performing at kind of like the best that I can get it performing. It's one of those things where like, just set it up, click go, and then you're like printing money. Like that can happen, but you need to have a bit more of a longer term mindset with it and approach it kind of like this next point I have here. You want to approach it like an investor. I like looking at Google Ads like you're building out an asset for your business, because once you have a campaign built and you've optimized it, you put in the time, put in the money, it's almost like you've built an engine onto your business that you can kind of scale up and scale down. So if you're like, I need to double my lead flow this month, you can literally just dial up your budget at a certain point. Like if you put in a year of time into your Google Ads account, you have it working predictably, you can double that budget. In theory, get double the leads. So it's really, kind of building something onto your business, and not just like that money you invest into it. It's not just getting burned. Like if you put the money in, you get all the data back, you see what works, see what doesn't. We're going to go into all that later, but that money is not just getting burned. You're actually investing it in the data and investing it in building up a good account for your business. And this last point here, I think is really important to kind of nail home, and it ties back into the budget. It's this idea of money equals speed. So I'm not advocating like spending a ton of money right out of the gate on Google Ads, but as long as things are set up properly, or you have somebody else managing it, or whatever the case might be, if you spend more, you're going to be able to get more data at a faster pace, which means you're going to be able to make changes quicker. You're going to be able to make improvements quicker, because the way it works with Google Ads is you're essentially putting money into the system. You're getting data back in the form of clicks, seeing, what converted, what ads people interact with more, and all that is data that you're getting back to yourself. And then you're able to look at that data, make tweaks, make adjustments, make changes. And the more money you're putting in up front, the quicker you're going to be able to make those changes. So like, let's say business A is spending $500 a month on Google Ads, but business B is spending $2,000 a month on Google Ads. Business B, because they're spending 4 times as much, they're going to be able to make changes 4 times as fast. So while business A might take an entire month to get enough data on their account to actually make any meaningful changes, business B has made 4 times that over the course of a month. Like what business A can do in a month, business B can do in a week. So that's kind of like, I wanted to, I guess, sort of change that mindset around the investment up front, so you can kind of understand that it's not just money going into a system and nothing coming back. It's money going into a system to get data back so that you can make changes more and more and more, improve the account more and more and more. And yeah, so that's kind of the mindset shift around the investment in Google Ads. So before we kind of start getting into actually building out the account, there's 4 pillars that I want to cover that really play into the success of every single Google Ads account in junk removal, but also in pretty much every niche that wants to run Google Ads. And as long as those 4 pillars are in place, you'll have success. And this also kind of ties into if you're troubleshooting an account, things aren't going well, you're going to want to look at these 4 pillars and see what isn't working, what is working, and then kind of troubleshoot from there. So essentially those 4 pillars are, number 1, you're going to have the structure of the account. And that's the account structure that, probably not going to make too much sense right now, but I'm going to go over what that looks like in just a bit. Number 2, you want to have the right traffic going into your accounts. You want to have your ads showing up for the right types of searches to generate high quality traffic. The third part is attraction. You want to get people to click on your ad at a high enough rate to kind of essentially perform better than your competition. And then number 4, you want to have conversion. You want to convert that traffic into leads. When I say leads, I mean phone calls and form fills. And we're going to go into these individually, because really what I want to do is I want to take this entire process and simplify it down into 4 main things. And that's kind of the way we're going to structure this training. And yeah, I don't want to go too in depth right now because we're going to cover each of these one by one. But now that we have those covered, let's actually go ahead into an account and start getting our campaign set up. And then as we go, we're going to kind of take it step by step. And then I'm going to come back to the presentation. We are going to go over the different pillars and kind of the different things you need to have set up and give you a bit more information. And yeah, so let's jump over to an account and start getting things moving. All right, so now we are over on the Google Ads platform. To get here, you're going to go to ads.google.com. And if you don't have an account set up, you don't have a Google account or anything like that, you're just going to hit the Start Now button. For me, I already have a Google account. I have some accounts set up. I'm just going to hit Sign In. And once this loads up, you're going to see a page that looks something like this. Right here, these are some of the accounts that I have right now. So it's probably going to be blurred out when I edit this. But you should see these 2 options right here. You're going to see New Google Ads Account or Switch Google Account. We're going to hit New Google Ads Account right here. And this is going to load up our next step here. And when this loads up, you should see some kind of prompt here. I've seen like multiple different kinds of prompts. But you should see some kind of, pick your next step kind of thing. What do you want to promote? What's your campaign goal? Whatever this might be. Essentially, we are not going to go through this process because this is essentially leading us down to Google's more like simplified campaign tools. I know they used to call it, I think it was like AdWords Express or something like that. But they've really been pushing the simplified ads platform for a while. It can work, but I don't personally recommend it. You can't get as granular with the things you can do. And to be honest, you can get better results going with the, more advanced platform. And it's something I feel like a lot of people don't know, that there's 2 different versions of the platform. So what we're going to do is we're not even going to go through this process. We're going to go down here to this, somewhat frustratingly small thing right here. And we're going to click Switch to Expert Mode. I think they're kind of trying to hide it a little bit, but we're going to click Switch to Expert Mode. It's going to take us down the more, advanced campaign setup here. And the next thing we're going to have to do is select a goal. Now, usually what I do if I'm creating a campaign, I'm going to go with this last one right here that just says create a campaign without a goals guidance. The reason being is sometimes if you select these different goals for the campaign, it'll corner you into only being able to run certain types of campaigns. So if you wanted to do like brand awareness and reach, you can only run these 2 types of campaigns, which is a bit annoying if I'm honest. So we don't want to be cornered into different types of campaigns. We just want to be able to do whatever we want. So we're going to create a campaign without a goals guidance. This next step, we're going to be selecting a campaign type. For the purposes of this campaign, don't worry about any of this other stuff. We're just going to be focusing on search. Now that's, people going to Google, typing in what they're looking for, and our ad showing up in Google search. So we're going to select that and then select the results you want to get from this campaign. Don't worry about this. This doesn't really have much impact on anything that you do. We're going to add in this information later. So we're just going to hit continue. Now we're going to put our name in here. I'm just going to call this Junk Removal Demo Campaign. And then this part right here is very important, networks. One thing we absolutely want to uncheck is this display network thing. Essentially what this means is if we leave that checked, our ads would be showing up on a bunch of different random sites across the internet, and we would generate a lot of clicks and a lot of traffic, and it would be cheap and everything, but a lot of that traffic is garbage, and a lot of the times it doesn't convert. and you're going to get this little notification like, hey, don't miss this opportunity to get more traffic or whatever. A quick little side note and a quick rule of thumb: if there's something that says like recommended by Google, or really any platform, any ad platform for that matter, usually don't go with it, because you kind of need to remember the ad platforms are going to recommend something that's going to get you more traffic. When you get more traffic, that means they charge more. So it's a bit of a conflict of interest. Trust me, just unclick display network. I've almost never seen it work for a search campaign. You can make display network work, but it's much more complicated, and that's kind of like outside the scope of this video. Same thing for right here. For the purposes of this particular campaign, I'm just going to uncheck include Google search partners. Essentially, what Google search partners is there's other websites around the internet that have like a search functionality, and they will actually partner with Google, and your ads can show up in their search for their websites, which can lead to some more leads. But for this particular campaign, I haven't really seen, honestly, that much traffic come from this. So just stick with search network. And this might seem like unchecking this is unchecking search network, but you're just unchecking Google search partners. In this way, we're only going to be showing up in Google search, which is where we want to be showing up. So let's go over some of these more settings here, make sure we're not missing anything. Start and end dates, don't worry about that. URL options, don't worry about that. Don't worry about the dynamic search ads setting. Ad schedule, this is going to be specific to your own business. Obviously, my recommendation is choose hours where somebody's going to be able to answer a phone. If you're running it 24/7, you don't want to have people calling you at 2 a.m, for example. So for this particular example, I'm just going to do like Mondays to Fridays. We'll do 8 a.m. to, let's say, 6 p.m. and it's in military time. So I need to do some quick math here. That should be 6 p.m. Either way, it's just an example. But if you wanted to add other days, you just hit this little add button right here, and you can keep adding days, select Saturdays, Sundays. If you want to get really complicated, you can add in like blocks where you like kind of stack like 1 hour on top of the other. So you'd be like Monday from 8 to 9, Monday from 9 to 10. That's a whole other conversation, but let's keep it simple for now, not go down that rabbit hole, and we'll just select Mondays to Fridays, 8 to 6. But again, just do what is right for your business and what makes sense for you, and essentially select when somebody can get to a phone. Next thing we're going to talk about is locations. What we want to do is we want to check this option, enter another location, and then this is going to give us the ability to do an advanced search. Now, usually what I'll usually just do like a radius targeting. So it's like 20 miles around whatever city. You can select individual zip codes, but for something like this, I would just recommend doing a radius. One thing you don't want to do is get too granular and say, oh, I only want to target these 2 zip codes, because then what's going to happen is you're not going to get enough search volume. There's just not going to be enough people in that little confined space looking for what you have to offer. So I guess for this example campaign, I'll target like Dallas, Texas, or something like that. Someone hit advanced search. It's going to pull up this window. Now I could just do Dallas, Texas, and I could just target Dallas, and it'll select that kind of area. For this, what I'll do actually is I'm just going to do a radius. So you select radius right here, 20 miles. Yeah, it's fine. Just kind of select whatever's right for you. I'm just going to do 20 miles around Dallas, Texas. And it'll select a little radius here. Now, if you do want to actually exclude certain areas, and this can be very, very helpful for a lot of different places. If there's certain zip codes that you want to take out, what you can do is you can exclude areas as well. So what you can do is actually go back to location. Let's say we don't want people, we only want people searching in Dallas. We don't want to be going all the way over to Fort Worth. You can type in Fort Worth, Texas, and then there's this other option here called exclude. Hit that, and it'll red out Fort Worth. You can do this for all these other areas around your target area, and this can kind of help to cut down on people calling in for jobs that are sort of outside your service area, or just kind of like irrelevant types of searches. So play with this, refine it, and get it working for your particular campaign. But once you have that set up, we're just going to hit save, And then one thing we do not want to skip is we want to hit location options right here. Hit this little arrow, and you're going to get a couple of options here. And again, this is going back to the whole idea of recommended option. Having this one selected, this is the default that they give you. You're going to be targeting the searches from people who are either regularly in, or who've shown interest in your targeted locations. Now that sounds ideal, but that essentially means that if you have this selected, you could have people who are literally in like North Carolina searching for junk removal Dallas, Texas, and your ad is showing to them in North Carolina because they're showing interest in your targeted locations. And we don't want that. We don't want to have people calling you from North Carolina. So what we want is we want to select the second option here, people in or regularly in your targeted locations. We're going to select that because essentially we just want people who are like living in Dallas, like homes and businesses within Dallas. We want to select people in or regularly in those targeted locations. And then also when I'm doing exclude, I will do this second option. So it's almost like you're reversing the targeted versus the exclusion thing. I'm actually going to do people in, regularly in, or who've shown interest in your excluded locations. So if somebody is within Dallas and they say, junk removal company Fort Worth, you're not going to show up for that. Ideally, you shouldn't. Sometimes little things slip through the cracks, but you want to make sure this is also set up properly because you can have sort of, like irrelevant searches coming in from outside of where you're targeting. So make sure that is set up properly. Languages, don't need to worry about that. Don't worry about audiences. Going back to budget, I'm actually going to set this at $50 per day. I mean, that's what we would do normally. I would honestly say like $75 a day would be the best for this particular campaign. Since we're not actually going to run it, I'm just going to set it at $1 a day. All right, for the bidding, this is probably what you're going to see right off the bat. What we want to do is select a bid strategy directly. Now you have a lot of different options here. I'm not going to go into too much depth on what all these are. Mainly what we want to focus on is maximize clicks and maximize conversions for this kind of campaign. You can do something like manual cost per click. A lot of people might prefer this. And this is a kind of topic where there's going to be so much like debate and people saying like who's right, who's wrong. The whole thing is, again, going back to the idea of testing, you need to just kind of choose one, see if it works, and then adjust if it doesn't. For this type of campaign, I would probably start with maximize clicks. And then as you've run things for about a month, you can switch it over to maximize conversions. So what's going to happen with maximize clicks is that's going to, like it says here, it's going to help you. Essentially, it's automating the bids on your account to try and get you the most clicks within your specific budget. Then once you have some data running through the campaign, you can actually just switch over to maximize conversions, and it'll actually set the bids to help you to try to get the most conversions within your budget. And that means trying to get you as many phone calls or form fills within your set daily budget. But unfortunately, we can't set this up just yet. We can't do maximize conversions yet because we don't have any actual conversion tracking set up. So for the time being, I'm just going to go with maximize clicks to start the campaign off. And one thing we also want to do, we do not want to skip this, is we want to set a maximum cost per click bid limit. If you don't set this up with maximize clicks in particular, it will spend. It will spend whatever it wants to spend. So you want to make sure you're constraining Google. And we'll go into how to figure out the right cost per click, like the kind of bid range in your particular market later on. We're doing keyword research. But for this right now, I'll just set it at like $9.57, something like that. And then we'll kind of see if we need to adjust that later on. We probably will because we're going to be doing something in the Dallas market, so it'll probably be more expensive than this. But for the time being, I'm just going to set it at that, and we can adjust it later. So moving on here, if you go to hide, show more settings here, conversions, don't worry about that. Ad rotation, don't worry about that for now. Ad extensions, we'll be setting these up later, and that's pretty much it for getting the campaign going. And what it's going to want us to do here is set up ad groups and things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch back over to the presentation right now just so I can explain some things. We'll do our keyword research and kind of pick it up back here once all that is taken care of. All right, so we are back in the presentation, and now we're actually going to start talking about the 4 pillars that I mentioned before actually getting into the account and everything like that. And this is kind of the first part, the most foundational part that we need to have set up and that we need to understand if we're going to have any success with Google Ads whatsoever, and that is actually the account structure. So really the biggest thing is relevance is kind of like the number one thing when it comes to Google Ads. The way the whole process works is you need to show an ad that is relevant to what somebody's looking for, and then actually send that person to a landing page that speaks directly to what that person was searching for. So to kind of put this in a different perspective, you need to kind of think about how Google works and how people use Google. So like I mentioned here, people go to Google to solve a problem. And what you want to do is you want to make it as easy as possible for that person to solve a problem. And this is just like having those 4 pillars in place. If you don't have this account structure stuff nailed down, things are most likely not going to work. That kind of sounds a bit vague right now, but I'm going to give you an example of what this looks like visually right now. And then as we go about the next step, putting together all the keywords and everything like that, you're going to start seeing how this sort of takes place. So this, this isn't like a junk removal example. It's just a graphic I had put together already, but this is same idea regardless of the niche. This is a roofing example, but just imagine this is junk removal. So at the campaign level, just like we just set up, you're going to set up, you're going to name your campaign, put in the budget, set the targeting, all that kind of stuff. And then what you're going to do once we start getting into actually putting together the keywords is we're essentially going to almost segment things out based on the different services that you have. So if we were to apply this to junk removal, you're going to have just regular junk removal kind of keywords, but then you also have things like appliance removal, furniture removal, mattress removal, all that kind of stuff. What you want to do is take those different types of searches and actually kind of segment them out like this. So for this particular example, you have a roof repair ad group. You also have a residential roofing ad group and a commercial roofing ad group. And this is just a really simplified example, but the people searching for these different things are looking for something completely different. For example, if somebody's looking for junk removal, like obviously they're looking for junk removal, but if somebody's looking for furniture removal, they're obviously not looking for appliance removal for the most part. So you want to make sure that what you're doing is you're taking those keywords, putting them into groups that are relevant to that service or what that person's looking for, and then showing those people ads specific to that search, and then sending those people to a landing page that's specific to those keywords and those ads. So it sounds a little bit complicated right now, but as we get moving forward, it's going to make more sense. But again, the whole idea is you're kind of taking these people that are flooding into the campaign and then directing them down these paths of like, okay, you're searching for furniture removal. Let's show you this ad for furniture removal, send you a landing page that talks about furniture removal. So that way everything lines up. Because if you don't have that kind of congruence in your campaign, things just aren't going to work because unfortunately, people have the attention span. I think the stat is like less than a goldfish at this point. So we need to make sure that we make it as easy as possible for people to actually get what they're looking for. Now that brings us on to the next step. Now this is where we're actually going to start doing our keyword research and actually bringing it over into our campaign. Pretty much what I'm going to do before we get into the keyword research, I want to explain a few things for those that may not be familiar with all kind of like the technicalities around keywords and stuff like that. But this whole section, we're going to be talking about getting the right kinds of traffic coming into your account. Because if you don't have the right kinds of traffic, just like the other 4 pillars, if this pillar is broken, nothing else is going to work. So you need to make sure you have high quality traffic coming into your account. So this whole section essentially deals with how you can get the right traffic going to your landing page, just like I just kind of talked about. And ultimately what we want to have happen is we only want our campaign to have high intent keywords in it, and we only want to be showing up for those high intent searches. Now, a high intent keyword or a high intent search essentially is a search phrase or a keyword that kind of suggests that somebody's close to purchasing something. So some good examples right here are things like junk removal near me, junk removal companies near me, junk removal city. In this case, it'll be junk removal Dallas or something like that. Something could be like same day junk removal could be another good one. Bad examples are showing up for things like, what is junk removal? Free junk removal services, junkyards near me. I've seen like recycling yards near me, stuff like that. But we want to make sure that we're showing up for those searches where somebody's they're suggesting to Google like, hey, I need a junk removal company, which means they have junk they need to get removed. So we want to make sure we're showing up for those kind of searches. To apply to another niche, if you're in roofing, since that graphic was in roofing, you want to be showing up for things like roofing contractor near me, not like, buy shingles from Home Depot. Like that's obviously not going to convert into a lead. So we want to show for those good quality searches. And we do this by choosing and bidding on the right keywords, and by also setting up a list of negative keywords. And we're going to go through these processes. We're going to go through keywords first, and then we're going to go over negative keywords. Now the keywords are essentially the words and phrases that we want to have our ads show up for. Negative keywords are just the opposite. It's the things that we don't want our ads showing up for, and you want to have a pretty extensive negative keyword list, and I'll show you how to set one of those up. So actually, before we get into the negative keywords, let's actually jump back here. Let's jump back over to the account, and then let's go through actually building out the keyword list, because I want to knock that out before we start getting into negative keywords and all that kind of stuff. So let's jump back over there right now. All right, so we are back here in the account setup that we had going before. What I'm actually going to do, so we can actually start the keyword research, is I'm actually going to just not set up any of this stuff right now, the ad groups, ads, anything like that. So I'm just going to scroll down here. I'm going to hit save and continue. The reason being is we need to do some keyword research to actually plug into the campaign. And, if we don't have the keywords, I don't want us just kind of like dropping random stuff in there. So we're just going to skip this process. It's going to send us this next step of create ads. I am pretty much just going to hit save and continue. This is going to skip all this stuff. If you have not set up an account and you need to do this, this is where you put all your payment info in. I'm not going to do that for the time being. Just because, it's gonna force me to do it. So let me actually put my information in here right now. Obviously, I'm going to pause this video while I do that, and then we'll pick it back up once I put all this information in. All right, so I have gone ahead and I have put in my billing information, and you should see a page like this. I'm just gonna hit this little button here that says Explore Your Campaign. If you don't see that, it should take you to some kind of a dashboard that looks something like this. If you end up getting to a dashboard that looks like this right here, just go up to this little button here that says switch view. I don't really use this view. I think this is kind of like a simplified view. Just hit switch view and you should be taken to a dashboard that looks something like this. Let me just hide this, get this out of the way. And the first thing I'm going to do, which I've actually already done, is we got a little glitch there. Let me refresh the page. Things weren't loading up properly. But what we want to do is we want to come to this little campaigns tab right here. And what I went ahead and did right away is, if you look under here, we hit campaigns. You're going to see the campaigns that we just set up. I went ahead and I just paused. I have two in here because I kind of messed up one of the original setups. But you just want to pause whatever campaign you have in here, just so nothing starts running while we're putting everything else together, and then we can just enable it again later to get things running. So pause that for the time being, and the first thing we want to do is get our keyword research going. So essentially, to do the keyword research, what we want to do is we want to come up here to tools, and you should see something like this. I've seen it come up in a couple different ways, but either way, whatever version of the menu you get, you want to go to planning, and then we want to go to keyword planner. So we just click on keyword planner right here. And this is essentially what we're going to be using for all of our keyword research. We want to select discover new keywords. And usually what I do, for myself, I already have like a list of sort of like junk removal related keywords that I use. But if you're starting for yourself and you're doing research in your own market, just pretty much start with the root keywords. So I'll just do something like junk removal. I'll probably do furniture removal. Say something like junk removal companies. And essentially what we're doing is we're telling Google, like, I want to find more keywords around these ideas. And then we're just going to hit get results. And this is going to pull up a lot of information down here. And what I'm going to do is actually, if you come up here, click on this little location thing right here. I'm just going to select, we can enter in locations. I'm going to type in Dallas, since we're going to be targeting Dallas. And what you can do is actually just get rid of this, hit this little X here to get rid of this United States targeting. So that way we can just get information from here. If we don't get enough data from here, sometimes I'll literally just target Texas as a whole, but we'll see what we get from Dallas. Now, if you have not run any traffic through your account, you haven't spent on anything, this is usually what you're going to see. You're going to see this kind of like average monthly searches, just gives you a range. It's not going to give you any specific data. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch over to an account that does have money running through it, just so I can show you what that looks like. So I'm going to use that data to start building out this keyword list. But either way, you can still use this list and it'll all be the same. So let me just switch over there now and we'll keep moving. All right, so I've actually gone ahead and I've switched over to an account that actually has a little bit of money running through it right now. And you're going to see the difference in the kind of data that I can get here. So this account has money running through it. And I think this is just Google's way of kind of saying like, hey, if you want to get the most accurate data from us, you need to pay us some money before we give you that information. You can see this is a lot more specific when I sort the average monthly searches. You're getting much more specific numbers, whereas if we look at this one, it's just kind of like, hey, we get sort of roughly in this range. So they're not going to give you that kind of information. But one of the good things here is on, regardless of which one you're looking at, you can see the potential, the bids, what people are bidding for these keywords, which is really, really good for, going back and needing to like switch up the potential bid and stuff like that for what you're spending. But let's kind of get going and actually go through how to kind of pick and choose quality keywords for your account. So usually, like I mentioned before, we want to find what are called high intent keywords. And pretty much what I'll do for this is just go, one by one and sort of explain it as I go. I'm not going to go through this entire list because it's 1,200 keywords. But right off the bat, one thing I am noticing is you're probably with any of the places that you search, you're not going to see a very high search volume here. So sometimes what I'll actually end up doing is I'm going to widen this out of Dallas, and I'm just going to target like Texas as a whole, just so I can get a wider range of data here. So Texas, we're just going to target the state of Texas, and I'm going to hit save. So you can see obviously those numbers went way up on the average monthly searches. The only reason I do this is I want to try and get like a wider range of what different people are searching, so I can get more ideas. And the whole thing of this process is there's no like, perfect keyword, or there's no, specific words and phrases you should target. It's just about trying to like dig through this, find the high intent keywords, and then target those within your account. And like I mentioned earlier, this can be very tedious, but definitely don't skip any of these steps, because kind of taking the time to do this properly is what will get you the results in the end. So usually what I do is I have a spreadsheet set up already, and I keep this pretty low tech. So what I do is I get a little spreadsheet set up, I go back to my list here, and what we're going to do is we're going to start pulling keywords that we think could be good. So junk removal, good. It's a little bit broad. So with this keyword, we don't really know what the intent is behind it, but somebody's at least going to Google and typing in junk removal. We don't know, like if somebody's searching junk removal, are they looking for information? Are they looking for a company? Are they looking to start a business? So this is a little bit broad. So this keyword could work or it could not, but I'm going to pull it anyway. So we're going to touch on this in a little bit once we go over negative keywords. We do not want to be showing up for 1-800-GOT-JUNK. So we're going to go over how you can actually make sure your account doesn't show up for that stuff. Another really good one, junk removal near me. So this kind of fits under the same umbrella as junk removal. So I want to put that right there. So junk removal near me, and we're going to keep going. Junk pickup. This could technically, I guess, be its own ad group, but I'm just going to put it under here for now. Same kind of idea. People looking for junk pickup, junk removal, 1-800-JUNK. That's going to be negative as well. Junk haulers near me. So this is where I would start putting it into another ad group. So you can see how like the ad groups are starting to take shape here. The reason being is if somebody's looking for junk removal, I want the ad to have keywords in it like junk removal. if somebody's looking for junk hauling, I want to make sure that the keywords in the ad are speaking towards junk hauling. It seems like such a small thing, but having that little bit of relevancy to what that person searched for is going to help you get a higher click-through rate. So same kind of thing here, junk hauling. Going to drop this in that ad group. And you can probably see the pattern right now. This is one thing I will point out right here, trash removers. From the campaigns that I've run, what I've found is targeting things like trash removal, trash hauling, things like that tend to, like, they can work, but what I've found is people searching for like trash removal, trash hauling tend to be people that'll call you up looking for like a garbage truck to come by every week to pick up their trash. So I actually have just removed these kind of keywords from my campaigns because I just found that once I took those out, the campaigns perform better. There's a lot, fewer of these calls with people looking for, weekly trash removal kind of services. So I skip these kind of keywords. There might be other people that run these kind of campaigns that would say otherwise, but for myself, I just kind of avoid those. So getting back to it, hauling services, that could be good, that could be bad. Not 100% sure on it, same kind of thing as junk removal, but I would include it, test it out, see if it works. Haul away junk, that is good. We want that. And again, we're getting into another ad group here, furniture removal. This is going to be its very own ad group. So you can see as we go through this list, we're continuing to, find new ad groups, find new keyword ideas. Junk pickup near me. That's another good one. Drop that in there. And then maybe essentially we just keep going down the list. Here's another ad group, mattress removals. Drop that there. And then I'm not going to sit here and do this over and over and over and over again. So I'm going to kind of cut this here. You can see what I'm doing. I'm literally just going down this list and I'm just pulling essentially as many ideas as I can of those high quality keywords from this list, pulling them over to this spreadsheet. And then essentially what I'm doing is I'm grouping them up into similar themes. And then these keyword themes, these are all going to become their own ad groups. They're all going to have their own ads and their own landing pages. And we will get into that as we keep going. But that's how you go about finding keywords using the keyword planner. All right, so once you've gone through and you've pulled all of your keywords, the next thing we need to do is actually build a negative keyword list. This is a very, very important step. And, whenever I'm personally auditing an account, it's one of the biggest things that I see people wasting money on, because if you don't include those negative keywords, you're going to have your ads showing up for a lot of irrelevant searches. And we touched on it a little bit, what negative keywords are, but it's essentially you need to put in keywords that tells Google, I don't want to show up for certain searches. And as we were looking at that list before, you see a lot of people that go to Google and search for 1-800-GOT-JUNK. There's a ton of different variations of what they search, so it's really important that we pull those different variations so you're not showing up for things like competitor searches or people looking for like free junk removal, stuff like that. And there's a few places that I go to actually find my negative keywords. One of them, I'll literally just do a Google search, and I'm going to show you these in just a second. I'll do a Google search for just like lists of common negative keywords, and I'll just pull from those lists. The second way I'll do it is literally just how we were pulling keyword ideas. We're going to go to the keyword planner and find negative keyword ideas from there. And then the third way I do it is actually I will go into the local market and I'll pull all the brand names of local competitors and then add those to the list as well. So let's jump over and actually start building out a negative keyword list. All right, so the first thing you can do to start building that negative keyword list is go over to Google, and usually, I have all these saved already for myself, but if you're starting a brand new list, just type in something like list of common negative keywords, Google Ads, and you're gonna see a bunch of different articles, 400 keywords you need to exclude, 1,500 negative keywords. I'm just gonna click this first one right here, and I'm gonna scroll down. And this should give you, so this just gives you a ton of different ideas that you can just pull from to add in as negative keywords. And you can see how these would be helpful, because you don't want somebody looking for, junk removal jobs or junk removal job openings, because that's not going to be a lead. That's somebody looking for a job. So pretty much go through this entire list. You don't really have to go through all 400 or 1,000 or whatever the list might be, but just scan through and start pulling out relevant things. I usually like to negative out things like, the career, like all this job related type stuff. People that are just looking for, research, all that is usually pretty good. These are always good to negative out as well. Anything like free, inexpensive, low cost. Another one that's probably not on here is pro bono. Things like that. So go through these kind of lists, pull anything that's relevant for you, and just add those to the list. And pretty much what I'm doing here is it's the exact same way as I would have been doing for the keyword list. I have my tab here for keywords. I've just put in a tab for negative keywords, and I just start dropping negative keywords into this list. And you don't need to worry about like structuring them. You just need to put them in there as a list. So that is method number 1, grabbing those common negative keywords. So method number 2 is going back to your keyword planner here. I'm going to put in Dallas again. Actually, no, I'll just go all of Texas. Struggling here. Texas. We're going to target all of Texas, get rid of the United States targeting, hit save. And pretty much what I'm going to do is leave it as is. I'm not going to hit any of these filters or anything like that. I want to see what other people are searching to see if there's anything else that I should be negativing, adding in as a negative on my campaign. So 1-800-JUNK. We don't want that. That is a brand name. So just like keyword research, we're adding that in, and we're going to add that in as a negative keyword. As we go on more, 1-800-GOT-JUNK pricing. And then one thing as I'm going on, it doesn't need to be, you don't need to pull it exactly from the list. Like if I see a lot of people putting in 1-800-GOT-JUNK, I'll type in different things like 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and then also include the different variations as well. So people that don't put a space, got junk. And I think the last time I put together a campaign, there's going to be a lot of different variations of this because people put it in like a million different ways. So people will actually like put in, I guess you can say the quote unquote misspelling. They'll do like 180 got junk or something like that. So I usually try to put in different variations of it just to be safe. But you'll kind of, example right here, 800 junk, people that don't even put in the 1. So you'll as you start to get like practice on this, you'll start to see those kind of things. So again, 1-800 got junk cost. We don't want to show up for that. I got junk. That is probably a brand name. You can exclude that as well. College hunks, brand name. We don't want to show up for that. So one thing you can do, you don't have to put in the exact for every single one. If it's a brand name, you can just put in the brand name. So it could be college hunks. People will probably misspell it and say college hunk as well. So I'd put the kind of misspelling as well. Junket, that is probably a brand name as well. You got junk, probably a brand name. $99 junk removal, I would exclude that. What else do we have? But yeah, you can see essentially it's the same thing as keyword research. You want to just find everything that you don't want to show up for and then just exclude it. For example, if for whatever reason you don't do piano disposal and you see that people are searching for that, you can just get rid of that. That's just an example. I'm sure a lot of you already do that kind of stuff, but you can kind of see the pattern here. This is probably another brand name here. I would just copy it, paste it, boom, and then just keep going down the list. It's going to be very tedious, like I said earlier, but embrace that tedium. The more you, go through this list, the more you take out, the more you're preventing just a ton of waste and just, showing up for stuff like this moving forward. Because if they're not looking for your business and they call you, that's just wasted money. So again, I negative out that brand name and just keep going down this list. Keep getting rid of things. I don't know if negativing is the right way to say that, but just keep going down the list, add in those negatives and just find everything you don't want to be showing up for and then add that in. So the final way I like to build up the negative keyword list is I'll actually do a search in the local area, and then I'll just take any of these brand names and add those in as well. So we have Junk King Dallas. I would go back to my list and I would literally just type in Junk King. And I'd probably also type in Junk King Dallas as well. You've got a franchise of J-Dog over there, so you can type in J-Dog. This is obviously assuming you are not any of these franchises, but We have another one here, we haul. So I'd probably do multiple different variations of that, because I'm sure a lot of people will be typing that in differently. So I would type in we haul, probably do we haul, and then probably we haul, maybe. Something like that. I'm sure you can put in more variations of that. And I'd also put in like the exact match of their brand name as well. Stand Up Guys Junk Removal, same thing. Stand Up Guys, just drop that in there. Junk Removal, drop that in there. Junk Guru, Junk Shot, and in the Dallas market, you're probably gonna have a lot of these to go through. But again, just doing that upfront work is going to prevent that waste on the back end. And yeah, that's building out the negative keyword list. The whole idea is just identify the things you don't want to show up for, and then add that into your campaign. So pretty much the same as keyword research. Do that for negatives, and then we will go over in just a little bit after we cover one more thing. We're going to go over actually adding the keywords into the campaign. But before that, we have to go over match types. So now that we have that list put together of our keywords and our negative keywords, we need to go over match types before we actually put them into the campaign. So if we were to take that list of keywords and then just copy them and paste them into our campaign, we would end up just copying in broad match keywords. And 9 out of 10 times, especially if you are newer to Google Ads, you do not want to put broad match keywords into your campaign. And what that means is you're essentially just taking a keyword and you're not adding any of these little modifiers to it. The two really, especially for the junk removal campaign, and especially if you're new to running Google Ads, just focus on phrase match and exact match, and I'll cover what that means in just a second. But broad match keywords, there's a lot of articles about this. You can really read in depth on it if you want to, but I'll just give you kind of the cliff notes here. Broad match keywords, when you don't put any modifiers on it, and you're essentially telling Google, I want to bid on, let's say, like a junk removal keyword, like junk removal near me. You're giving Google a lot more free reign to not only bid on that keyword, but they're just going to try and show your ad for a bunch of other kind of quote unquote related searches. And pretty much what that means is you could want to show up for somebody searching for junk removal near me, but Google could say, okay, well, something else that's related is, somebody searching for how to recycle my mattress, or where in town do I recycle my mattress? Something like that. Something completely unrelated. I mean, it is kind of related, but for the most part, if you use broad match keywords, Google is going to display your ads for all kind of just wild searches. So for the most part, stay away from broad match. The only time you want to run broad match is if you have a massive negative keyword list, so that you can avoid your ads showing up for all those wild things that Google thinks your ad would be relevant for. Broad match modified as of this video, I don't know if it's phased out just yet, but you might see this on some of the lists that you're looking at. It's going to get phased out eventually, but it's essentially saying to Google, I want to show my ads for any searches that include these 3 words in any order. So, if you want to show up for like junk removal Dallas, you would put junk removal Dallas, and that could, show ads for who does junk removal in Dallas. It could also show ads for junk removal company Dallas. As long as those 3 words are in there, it can show up. But again, this match type is getting phased out and kind of merged in with phrase match. Now, phrase match essentially is telling Google, I want to show up for searches that contain this specific phrase. The words cannot be in any other order. There's a little bit of flexibility to this at this point. But for the most part, you're telling Google, I want to show up for searches that have this exact phrase. So if you are putting in the phrase junk removal near me, it'll show up for junk removal near me, but it could also show up for, junk removal near me in Dallas, Texas, something like that. So that's phrase match. And then exact match, as you might be able to guess at this point, exact match is telling Google, I want to show up for this exact search term. So if you put in junk removal near me, Google is going to do their absolute best to make your ad show up for that specific search only. Google has tweaked and changed over the years, and you don't always show up for exactly what you're bidding on with these 2 phrases, or these 2 match types rather. So you will see some variation, so don't be surprised if you see that. But usually with phrase and exact match, Google is pretty good about keeping it as constrained and as close to what you're bidding on as possible. And I think that's kind of a good thing, because if they kept it really rigid and really strict, you would be kind of missing out on some other opportunities. But again, stick to phrase match, stick to exact match, avoid broad match, especially if you're new. And after we cover landing pages, we're actually going to take all those keywords, put them into the account, and you're going to see what I'm talking about as we kind of build it out. But I wanted to cover that first before we actually get to that point. We're going to use a tool called Adwords Wrapper to make that much, much easier. But before we actually take those keywords and paste them into the campaign, we need to make sure that we get our landing pages set up. So let's go ahead and cover the next pillar, which is conversion. And that involves getting our landing pages set up and having them set up properly to actually get somebody to either pick up the phone or submit a form fill and become a lead. All right, now that we have our keyword set up, we have our negative keyword set up. Before we actually go and drop those into the account and start building everything else out, the last thing we want to get together is our landing pages. And the reason for this is we want to have an actual link to a landing page, because essentially when you're building out the ads, you need to have a link to either a website or a landing page before you actually publish anything and get it approved by Google. So it makes sense to cover this pillar first before we move on to the next. It's a little bit out of order from that first that first slide covering the 4 pillars, but the next thing we're going to cover is conversion, and this is talking all about landing pages. So essentially this is dealing with when somebody clicks on an ad and then converting them into either a phone call or a form fill, and ideally we want to generate phone calls. So obviously this pillar is very important, because if our landing pages are not working, they're not generating phone calls, then we would not be making any money from the campaign. So this is obviously a very important step. And I've mentioned landing pages. I'm going to cover what those are in just a second if you don't know what they are, but we want to send our traffic to landing pages and not to the homepage of your website or really any other page on your site. And the reason this is 9 out of 10 times in pretty much every niche, a landing page is going to convert at a much, much higher percentage than your homepage or a page on your website. And there's a couple of reasons for this. Usually most websites are not designed to convert people into leads. And this kind of ties into the second point, is that a lot of websites are very kind of distracting. I'm sure I've probably mentioned it once on this video that people have the attention span less than a goldfish at this point. So we need to make things as simple as possible and not have a bunch of different links for people to click on, different services they can look at, and kind of, we don't want people browsing around, essentially. We want people focused on, they have a problem to solve, and then we put something in front of them right away where we say, hey, we do this thing, give us a call for a free estimate to solve that problem. And that's pretty much what a landing page is. It's an oversimplification, but yeah, at the end of the day, the landing pages aren't that complicated, and we're actually going to go over an example in just a second. But yeah, so all that said, you can send people to your homepage, you can send people to your site. It can work, but it's probably not going to work at the same rate that it would as a landing page. So a landing page, as you might have picked up from what I was just talking about, it's a really, really clear, focused page with like one singular focus, and that focus is to convert somebody into a lead. For at least local lead generation, that's the focus. You're not going to have any no distractions, no navigation, no excess of information. It's going to be a single focused offer and a single next step. So every landing page, you want to focus on pretty much one service, have one offer for the next step, and usually that offer, like 9 out of 10 times, will be call us for a free estimate. That's usually the offer that we're going to run with. If you have anything else, you feel free to add that in. It'll probably up your conversion rate. But it's all about focusing on one service, making one offer, and then keeping everything very, very focused. And as we mentioned earlier, you have a lot of different ways to build out landing pages. You got WordPress, which I personally use, lead pages, Unbounce, Instapage. We covered all those at the beginning. So feel free to use whatever you're comfortable with, ultimately, when it comes to landing pages. And the best piece of advice I can give here, because we're going to be creating, I guess not like custom landing pages for every single ad group, but we're going to be creating landing pages specific to every single ad group that we create. I'm not going to do this in this video because that would obviously take a while, but we want to create almost like a template, like a layout that works for us, and then duplicate it out over and over again, and then change up the copy and everything on it to speak directly to that specific service that you're advertising for. And I say here, just don't worry about trying to like reinvent the wheel for every single landing page. but just focus on getting that template in place and then change the content so it's relevant to the searcher. And a big thing here, obviously, is make sure it works on mobile. And then we'll go over this last point here a little bit later on to set up conversion tracking on all your pages, because if you don't have that set up, then obviously you cannot figure out what's working. So we'll cover that after we have everything set up. And then we'll also cover the thank you page as well. So let me back out of this really quick and then show you what I'm talking about. So this is a quick example. I just kind of put this template together really quick just to show you some of the elements you want to have. And at the end of the day, once you kind of go through it, you're going to realize it's not like groundbreaking stuff. It doesn't have to be super pretty. And honestly, one thing I would advise is like, don't worry about making it super pretty. For whatever reason, in the world of marketing, ugly converts. And I don't know why. And I think it's just how simple it is. There's not a lot of distraction, and ugly tends to work well for whatever reason. And I'm not complaining, because I'm not an award-winning designer here. So the main things you're going to notice, there's absolutely no navigation. So when somebody comes here from Google, they have pretty much two options. Either they can call you or submit a form fill, whatever, they can convert into a lead, or they can go back to Google. Like, those are the two options that somebody has. You don't want them clicking around and looking at all this other stuff. You want them to either call you or just go back to Google. And then pretty much all the other content on the page, like this headline, this headline area is probably the most important, especially on mobile. I didn't give you like specifics because this is going to be like different for whatever services or location or whatever. But make sure this first headline is lining up with whatever the keywords are that you're bidding on and whatever's in the ad. So if it's furniture removal, you would say, furniture removal services, furniture removal company, junk furniture removal, whatever you would like to put as your headline, you can put that here. For regular junk removal, it could just be like junk removal company, junk removal services, whatever aligns with that ad that you wrote. And then I usually like to put in a line that says, serving all of insert location. Or if it's, like a smaller place in surrounding areas, I'll say like in, serving, Dallas and surrounding areas or something like that. And then this third line here, I like to talk about, it could be a little short, concise blurb about your business. One thing I like to do is put in kind of the different types of stuff that you remove. It could be something like, no job is too big or too small. These are the type of things that we haul away. Something like that. So you're hitting like three key things when somebody lands on the page. You're saying, hey, we're a junk removal company. We serve your location. This is the type of stuff that we haul away. And that's especially important on mobile, as you'll see in just a second, because that is, that's essentially like solving somebody's problem right away. Like they're looking for that solution immediately after they click on that ad, and the sooner you can give it to them, the better. So the other things you're going to notice is the next thing is, just a quick place for them to put in their information. It's all very clear, very well laid out. It's essentially just driving them to, hey, either give us your information here or call us and you'll get a free estimate. As we go on, have a little blurb about your business right here. One thing that works here, and these are just stock images. Never use stock images on your page for a live page. This is just a demo site. But I would put something here where it's either like a picture of yourself and your crew, picture of yourself in your truck, maybe you doing work, you and your team doing work, whatever. And then I like to have this be an about section, like a couple paragraphs, but give it more of like a personal spin. Because what I've found is, people want to do business with other people. And if they can kind of build that rapport right there on the page with you before even talking to you, I think that's a really big plus. So it'll, kind of say, hey, my name is, insert whatever your name is. I started this business because blah, blah, blah. And, I love to serve my customers and help them with this. And something that usually works really well is, give them a little guarantee, whatever that might be specific to your business. So a little about section. I do another call to action, and just pictures of stuff that you remove. There's going to be pictures of past jobs. Again, just kind of, pull from either your Facebook or whatever, pictures you have. Don't overthink it. Don't have to don't stage anything. The more it looks like, just pictures you'd find on a social media profile, the better. And then one last thing, super, super important, always have reviews. I usually just grab the Google, the number of Google reviews here. And then the biggest thing with reviews is you want to just take screenshots of them. ultimately. That's usually what I do on almost all of my client accounts, is I take just like a review of their Google screenshots and I just pretty much just paste them on the page. The reason for that is it's so easy to fake stuff nowadays. And if you can literally just screenshot like reviews that are out there in public on Google or Facebook or whatever and just paste them on your page, those are infinitely more believable than just like typing up some review that somebody may or may not have said to at some point and then putting a name without a face and calling it a day. But if you just screenshot that, people's BS detectors don't go off, and it's the same in every industry. You want to have those screenshots on there because you just can't fake it. So always have your reviews. That's probably, if you're looking for one lever to pull to increase your conversion rate on your landing page, put reviews. Just as not like as many reviews as you can put on there, but put a good handful of reviews, and that'll help your page out. And then I just finish things up with a little footer call to action. And yeah, same kind of thing, give us a call, fill out the form. And then one little more technical thing is you want to have a privacy policy, you want to have a terms of condition, and you want to link to those pages down here. This doesn't actually link to anything right now. And then usually what I do is you want to have a link to the homepage of the site as well. So that is, again, it's nothing groundbreaking. You're not like reinventing the wheel here. It's not that attractive. The whole idea is that it's simple, it's easy to comprehend, it's easy to take action on. And let me actually show you really quick what it looks like on mobile. Again, super simple. And it's the design, like worrying about design is I don't want to say pointless, because it's definitely not pointless. It's better to have it look good. But the whole thing is like on mobile, it's just going to stack up like this anyway. So you need to make sure that things stack like this, look clean, are not broken and all over the place. And that it's just very, very clear about driving somebody like, hey, you're here for this. We serve you in this location. This is what we haul. And then as the first thing they see when they scroll down is call for an instant quote. And I actually have the phone number kind of like stick up to the top of the page here. But it goes straight into the call to action, and then there's the about us stuff, another call to action, types of stuff we remove, reviews, and then another call to action. So very, very simple, very, very straightforward. All, like I said before, just focused on the one service, the one call to action, and that's it. One other thing that you want to set up as well, and you can pretty much send all of your different landing pages to this one thank you page. You want to set up a thank you page as well, because essentially what happens is somebody puts in their information here in this box, and then you can actually redirect them over to this thank you page after they put in their information. And the reason you do this is how you actually track conversions on when somebody puts in their information. So we're going to go over this a little bit later, but also make sure you have a thank you page to send all those form fills over to, and then have something like this on your thank you page as well. I've found that having even just this little blurb like, hey, thanks for reaching out. If you want to speak to somebody immediately, please give us a call at the phone number below, and then put the phone number there. I've found that it's almost like, as long as it's not on like a Saturday or a Sunday, if it's during the week, probably half of any of the form fills that we get actually pick up the phone and call as well, which is far more valuable than just getting a form fill. So having something like this on the thank you page is super, super valuable. And yeah, that's kind of the landing page layout. And like I said before, we'll go over the conversion tracking stuff, but just make sure you have a thank you page set up first, and then we'll kind of touch on the conversion tracking a bit later. So that is pretty much it for conversion. So now we have all that stuff set up. Let's actually go and start building out the ad groups. All right, so we are back in the Google Ads account. This next step is essentially just going to be taking those keywords that we put together, pasting them into the Google Ads account, and then after that we're going to be putting together ads. So we're kind of in like the home stretch here. We have a lot of our stuff already set up. We've done our keyword research. Obviously you're going to have a lot more keywords than myself, because I'm just doing this as kind of like a demo. We're going to have our landing pages. We're going to have links for all our landing pages, and yeah, so we're pretty much almost to the end, and we're almost there. We're in the home stretch. It's a long process. It's a tedious process, but it's worth it in the end. So one really quick thing I want to touch on before getting into that, we're going to be operating out of this campaign right here. If you're not seeing these showing up right here, there's a chance that you have a setting kind of switched to the wrong setting here. If you click on this 3 arrows right here, It could be set to like all enabled. So you're going to see, if your campaigns are turned off and you have all enabled selected, they're not going to show up. So you want to set it to either all or all but removed if these are not showing up right here. But for example, if you want to change the settings on your campaign, that's one thing I want to touch on really quick. Like let's say you're setting things up and you maybe set your bid too low, your maximum CPC bid limit too low. You want to select the campaign here, go down to settings. You can see you can pretty much tweak a lot of the things that you set up from the beginning. So if you need to change your locations, you can do that here. Change your budget, you can do that here. Alternatively, you can just click this right here to change your budget. You need to change that CPC bid limit. You can see right here under bidding. Open this up and you can actually change that CPC bid limit right there if you ended up setting it a little bit too low, or if you started running your account and you notice you're not getting any traffic, the chances are this bid limit is too low. So I'm not going to be changing any of that for this because it's obviously just a demo. But yeah, just wanted to bring that up really quick. So in order to get going on putting together the ad groups and actually bringing our keywords into the campaign, we need to first create a new ad group. So we want to select our campaign here on the left. We want to go to ad groups, hit this little plus sign. And then this starts the process of creating a new ad group. For yourself, you're going to have a lot more than me. And I'm just going to be doing like a generic junk removal ad group. And for yourself, you would essentially go through this process for generic junk removal, furniture removal, if you're doing mattress removal, appliance removal, whatever the case may be, go through this process for every single one. I'm just doing junk removal as an example. So now this is where you put in our keywords. And what we don't want to do, like I mentioned before, going over match types, we don't want to just copy and paste these keywords in there, because that is essentially going to, let me get out of here really quick. I'm jumping ahead here. If we just copy and paste those keywords out of here and just put those in the campaign, these would all just be set as broad match. And we don't want them being broad match because that's just going to give us a bunch of garbage traffic. So to make things easy on us to wrap them in phrase match and exact match, we want to copy these, come over to this tool right here, Adwords Wrapper. You can just Google Adwords Wrapper or go to adwordswrapper.com. I'm sure there's a ton of other tools that do the same thing. This is just the one that I use personally. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to just take those keywords, paste them in this box, and then just hit wrap keywords. And this does all the heavy lifting for us. So it has a bunch of different variations. This is the one we're going to go with, phrase and exact. You can just have modified broad, phrase, exact. There's a ton of different options, but we just want phrase and exact. And the reason we want phrase and exact for each keyword is we want to see which of these variations performs better. Because, while I have experience in other accounts and all that kind of stuff, you're never going to know which variation is going to perform better. So you want to put them both in there up front so you can actually kind of test it out, see what works, see what doesn't work. And this is the only way we're going to do that, is make them both phrase and exact. So I'm going to copy this, hit this little copy button, right click on them, copy it. And then we want to come back to our account, paste these keywords in there. And that's pretty much it. We just hit save and continue, and it takes us to the next step, which is actually creating our ads. So I'm going to pause it right here. We're going to jump back to the slideshow again really quick, just so I can cover some basic points before we start putting our ads together. And yeah, so I'll see you there in just a second. So before we actually get back over to the account and start typing in our ads and kind of creating copy and stuff like that, I wanted to cover a couple of points just so I can actually equip you with, I guess, a couple of tools you could use, quote unquote, for writing ads. Because I think that would be, of a little bit more service than just kind of showing you, hey, I made an ad, and then kind of leaving it at that. So some things that I definitely want to cover here before we start writing that stuff out. Like I mentioned here, if you want to get people to actually convert on our landing pages, we first need to get them to click on our ads. So getting people to click on your ads at a high enough rate is really, really important for Google. I try to shoot for at least a 5% CTR, which is click-through rate. That means out of every 100 people that see the ad, at least 5 people click on it. Generally, I'm able to get much higher than that, but that's kind of like a bare minimum that I want to shoot for. And there's going to be a lot of videos online, a lot of articles talking about what's the copywriting secret, the copywriting hack to get more people to click on your ads. The number one thing you can do is going back to that first pillar of account structure, is just making sure everything is relevant to what people are searching for, making sure your account is set up properly, making sure that You have your ad group that has specific keywords, and then you have an ad that is in alignment with those keywords that sends people to a landing page that's in alignment with the ad. That's like the number one thing you can do to actually get a higher click-through rate on your ads, is just making sure that everything is relevant to what people are searching for. So if somebody's searching for furniture removal, you want to show them an ad for furniture removal. And you do that by just making sure you have the right account structure in the first place. So, and also, make sure that you're just focusing on solving someone's problem. If you keep that in mind while you're building out your account, building out your ads and landing pages and everything, you're going to have success. So let's talk about the concept of message match. Same kind of idea as what I just talked about with account structure. And it's going to sound like overly basic and overly simple, but your ad copy needs to line up with exactly what's said on the landing page. And this can be something as simple as like this call to action here. So if I say on the ad, call for a free estimate, and then I send them to a page that even just uses like different copy for that call to action. So if I say in the ad, call for a free estimate, and on the landing page I say, I don't even know, like book an estimate or something like that. Even something like that can throw it off. It's not going to be like a lot, but it's one of those weird little copywriting things where somebody's brain is going to see this exact copywriting on the ad, and their brain's going to be like, okay, on that landing page, where do I call for a free estimate? So we need to make sure all that lines up, and we need to make sure that the copy in the ad is speaking to exactly what's on the landing page. It has to call out to the same need that they have. So if you say junk removal company in the ad, make sure you say junk removal company on the landing page, and then have that call to action line up with what's on the landing page as well. So everything needs to line up, because if people feel like they're in the wrong place, or they clicked on an ad and they're not seeing the right thing they're looking for, they're just going to go back to Google. So making sure that message match is set up is really, really important. And let's cover some tips for writing solid ads. These are just kind of like some quick bullet points, and I'll try to kind of demonstrate them when I type out an ad in just a second. But the headline should always incorporate some kind of variation of the keywords from that ad group. It doesn't have to be exact. So there's gonna be a lot of different keywords in the ad group. Just kind of like hit the premise, I guess the overarching theme of that ad group in that first section of the headline. You want to have that in there so people can actually say, if they type in junk removal company, you want your ad to say junk removal company Texas or something like that. You want to always have a call to action in the headline. It's, you don't always have to have a call to action in the headline, but it definitely helps to say, call for a free estimate. If you have some kind of offer, like 10% off for new customers, whatever it might be, you can throw that in the headline. Use symbols and numbers where appropriate. And these could be things like, like saying number one, like the actual like little hashtag, the pound sign, number one, something like that. Those little kind of symbols and numbers can kind of make it stand out from other people and help to catch people's eye. Don't focus on yourself and your business name. Focus on solving the customer's problem. I see this a lot with, not just in the junk removal space, pretty much every space where somebody says, like the first headline will be like the name of their business. And, I don't say this out of like, you're not important or whatever, but a majority of the customers don't even care about what the name of the business is. They just want to solve their problem. So it's not like a knock on you or anybody else's business or whatever. It's just what the customer wants. The customer does not care about you. The customer doesn't care about me. The customer just wants to solve a problem. So putting your business name in there and saying like, Bob's Junk Removal, been in business since 2005 or something like that, just doesn't help the customer. It's just kind of talking about you. You want to focus on them. You don't want to focus on you. So focus on your customer and you'll be good. Incorporate as many differentiators and benefits as you possibly can. And this can be, actual differentiators like, we can do same day junk removal, something like that. And it can be other things, something as simple as, free estimates, A+ BBB rated, all that kind of stuff. You do a little bit of research in your market and then look at your competitors and just say, how can I differentiate myself from them? Or how can I guess you could say sound better than them? Because a lot of people use kind of the samey sort of things that's just like, hey, we do great service, all that kind of stuff. But if you try to set yourself apart, whether it's, certifications, like I said, BBB A+ rated, that's one of those things, consumers think the Better Business Bureau is this like very legit organization, so throwing that in an ad can help. There's a lot of different ways you can do it, and I'm just kind of spitballing this off the top of my head, but you want to try and incorporate those differentiators. Sometimes using a question can help. Need to remove junk, have a junk problem, stuff like that can help get some good engagement as well. We're going to cover this after we actually put together the ad and we kind of publish the ad group, but we need to use ad extensions. And I'll explain what those are in just a second. You want to use as many of them as possible because that kind of takes up more space on the page. And then this last point, which is kind of popping up in a lot of different areas, but you want to test, and then test some more. Every business, every marketer are different, and you always want to be split testing different ad variations against each other. And I'll show you how to set that up after everything is live. Because like I said, with the keywords and kind of putting in the phrase an exact match, you never know what's actually going to work best until you actually put it out there and test it and figure it out. I see a lot of people that, want somebody to write great ads for them or something like that. And my response is always just write an ad, test it, and then see if it works. If it doesn't work, test another one. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are some quick little solid tips. So let's actually switch over to the ad account and actually put something together now and kind of get things going. So when it comes to writing the ads themselves, what we're actually going to do for this particular demo is you're most likely going to see something like this. This is Google's responsive ad setup, and essentially what that means is you give them a wide range of headlines, a wide range of descriptions, and they kind of, use some AI magic to figure out the best combinations of headlines and the best combinations of descriptions to try and get the highest click-through rate. These can absolutely work, and I actually recommend putting some of these together, but for the sake of simplicity right now, I'm going to switch over to what's called just the text ad. It's kind of the traditional ad format. And the way you do that is you scroll down here, and this link will probably change at some point. They're always updating their platform, but you should look for something like this that just says switch back to text ads. I'm going to click that. Yes, I'm going to switch, and I'll show you how to, set up a responsive ad after we do this. And yeah, so this is what you should see once you switch over to text ads. And this is why I was saying have the landing pages good to go first, because you need to have a URL set up in order to actually set up an ad and to get it approved. So I am going to paste that in just a second. And instead of having you sit here and watch me kind of bumble around and put together an ad for the next 5 minutes, I'm just going to go ahead and type this out now, pause this, and then start this back up once I have it in there, and I'll walk you through what I did. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've put together a quick little draft of an ad. By no means is this copy going to be world class or anything like that. I just whipped it up real quick, but I just want to do this for demo purposes. So pretty much the way this is going to work is if you switch over to the text ads, you're going to put your final URL right here. What that means, this is the landing page this ad is pointing to. So obviously this is the junk removal ad group. We have a junk removal ad. We're sending it to a junk removal landing page. The way the rest of this goes is you have 3 different headlines. There's a display path, which is essentially just you can put a couple more keywords in here, and it'll show up right up here as, junk removal demo.site/junk removal Dallas. This is just a way to kind of get the keyword in there again. And then you're going to have a couple descriptions as well. So what I did with the headlines, again, nothing super complicated, and I used kind of little symbols here, 100% fast and friendly. Instead of typing out and, I used a little symbol for and. And you can see it kind of like follows that, same kind of layout that I was mentioning before. This first line, I always try to incorporate the keyword. And then the second line, I'm usually trying to do like a call to action, like call for a free estimate, call today for an estimate. There's a ton of different variations you can do with that. Again, the thing is just test and test and test again to figure out what works best. And then this last headline here, I just dropped in something else like fast and friendly junk removal. And this is another thing I'll kind of test to see what works best. So those are the headlines. And then one thing you'll notice is if I start typing in more here, like if I put in Dallas, usually that third headline is going to get cut off. So there's sometimes like a sweet spot with the number of characters in each headline to get all of this in there. Again, something to test. But, you can kind of tweak things and change things to try and get it all in there at once. But yeah, those are the headlines. Description, again, something you can kind of tweak and change. I went with something pretty basic, have a junk problem, no job too big or too small, we can haul it all, 100% free estimates. Our trucks are standing by, give us a call to schedule your junk pickup today. So nothing too wild. And with the description, I would actually recommend filling in as many of the characters as possible. I'm about like 10 short here, but in the interest of time, I didn't want to sit here for too much longer trying to put together the perfect ad copy. So this is an example of a quick ad. Now what we're going to do once it's done is, instead of going done and create next ad, I usually just hit done, and I have a way that we can kind of duplicate things out and get the rest of the ads done quicker. I just hit done, and don't worry about this right now. We're going to be setting up our extensions in just a little bit. We're going to hit save and continue. And then now we have our ad group together. So if we go to our campaign, go to our ad groups, we can see our junk removal ad group is showing up right here. We can click in right here. We can see all of our keywords that we dropped into the campaign. And then, so if you want to see that, again, we have the campaign here. We have our ad group that we just created right here. And then once we click on the ad group, we can go in and we can see keywords. Click on search keywords, we can see all of our keywords here. And then if we want to see our ads, it's the same kind of thing. Campaign is here, ad group is here. Click on ads and extensions, make sure ads is selected, and this is the ad that we just created. And if you want to double check that it's making it to the proper landing page, you can literally just go in here, click on the ad from here, and it should show you where it's going, and it is going to the proper landing page. So in order to, before we actually run things, what we want to be doing is we want to be testing multiple variations of the ads against each other. So that's how we kind of figure out what works best. It's called split testing. We want to figure out what variation of that ad copy works the best. And the way we do that, the easiest way to do that is, once we have an ad in here, we can actually click this little pencil icon right here. Once we click that, we have the option that says copy and edit. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this ad and then edit it, and then save a new version of it. So then we'll have two ads in there. So I'm gonna hit copy and edit. And there's a lot of different, I guess, kind of theories that people put out there for the best ways to split test ads in Google. I've had some people teach me where, you create an entirely new ad to test. Usually what I do, if I'm just kind of getting started on something, I focus my attention first on the headline, because that's the thing that people are gonna see the most. So I will test out variations of this headline first before I start testing out all the different descriptions and the copy that I can put in here. So I'm going to do something really simple for this first test. I'm literally just going to put in junk removal service Dallas, and then I'm actually going to get rid of this 100% so I can try and get that third line back in there. So that way it changes it from, instead of just saying junk removal service, it'll say junk removal service Dallas, call for a free estimate, fast and friendly junk removal, and that'll be the first test that I'll run. So I'll just hit save as, or save ad, not save as, and now you will see that we have two ads in there. So within this ad group, we now have two ads for junk removal. So the best rule of thumb is you want to have at least, I would say probably have like 3 ads per ad group. And be testing different things. You want to see what works best, and then the whole idea is you see what works best, which has the best click-through rate, and we're going to go over this a little bit later in the video on how to figure out what's working and what's not. Do a little quick little crash course on that, but you want to have at least like 3 different ads, and you do that same process again. So to create the third one, click on the pencil, copy and edit, make a new variation. And yeah, that's the ads. And yeah, so from there, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go into ad extensions after this and show you how to set some of those up. We're not going to go through every single one of them, but I'll show you where to find them, how to set them up, what's important, all that kind of stuff. So we'll cover that next. So I actually forgot a couple quick little things before we go on to the ad extension stuff. What we're going to do is we're first going to do something very, very critical, and we are going to incorporate our negative keywords. I did not show you how to do that, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So usually when I'm putting negative keywords on a campaign, I'm going to put them at what's called the campaign level of the account. So you can add keywords to, negative keywords to the campaign level. You can add them to an ad group level. What we're going to do is we're going to add them to the campaign level of the account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the campaign here on the left. I'm going to go down to keywords, and then you can select negative keywords right here. And this process is pretty much exactly the same as adding keywords. You're going to hit this little plus, and then you can drop in keywords here. So let me actually switch over to our keyword list, or rather our negative keyword list. Now with the negative keywords, you can actually wrap these just like you can wrap your regular keywords. Usually what I do with negative keywords, it's one of those things where you can kind of just leave them like this. With negative keywords, you're going to be taking out pretty much exactly what's here. Google will kind of treat it almost like an exact match keyword, but I usually like to, at the very least, wrap these up as, phrase match usually. In some cases, you will want to use exact match. So, there's sometimes people name their brands as things that could overlap with certain keywords. So I put an example here. This wasn't actually in our research, but let's say somebody had the brand Dallas Junk Pros, for example. If I saw that, I would probably take that and then wrap this particular negative keyword as an exact match, just so there's no overlap between any of our keywords that we're actually bidding on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these negative keywords. I'm just going to copy them, same as before, go over to Adwords Wrapper, drop these in here, hit wrap keywords, and I'm just going to do probably phrase match on these. So I'm going to copy these, copy my negative keywords, come back over to our account, drop these in here, and then just hit save, and you should see all of your negative keywords showing up down here. So pretty much do that for all of your negative keywords, go through them, kind of evaluate them and see if you need to make them exact match or whatever the case may be. I usually just drop them in as phrase match. And again, it's the same as dropping in your search keywords. Do the same thing for your negative keywords, add those to your to the campaign level of your account. So just make sure you have your campaign selected, drop them in there. And if you do need to add any extra search keywords, you can do the same thing here. Select search keywords, hit the plus sign, and then you can select your ad group and then put your keywords in there as well. So that was the first thing that I wanted to talk about. The second thing I wanted to talk about that I didn't touch on was actually adding responsive ads. I'm not going to go through the process, but I just wanted to show you, once you have your text ad set up, if you want to add in a responsive ad as well to test that out, it's pretty much the same as, a lot of other things on the account. You're going to select your ad group, you're going to go to ads, and then you're going to hit this little plus sign right here. So ads, plus sign, and then you can hit right here, responsive search ad, and it'll take you to that same page that was here before. Drop in the headlines, drop in the descriptions, and just kind of include as much as possible in there to get as many variations as possible. And really, if you create this and it doesn't work as good as the text ads that you create, that's totally fine. The whole idea, again, is just to test it out. So if you want to do the responsive stuff for the responsive ads, hit that plus, hit responsive search ads, you can add one in there. And yeah, so now we'll actually get onto the extensions, and I'll talk about some of that stuff right now. So now that we have a couple ad variations in there, the next thing we need to talk about when it comes to ads and making sure that we have the best ads possible are actually ad extensions. And what we want to do is we want to set up as many ad extensions as possible that are relevant to the business. So, there's a long list of them. You don't need to worry about setting up all of them because some of them just literally aren't going to be relevant to the junk removal space. And the reason ad extensions are important is you can essentially get more copywriting into your ad. It takes up more space on the page, and when it takes up more space on the page, there's a much higher percentage chance that people are going to click on your ad. It also allows you to kind of get more keywords in there as well. And Google likes to see you using ad extensions. So it's kind of a double-edged sword thing where Google likes to see you using ad extensions. So if they see you using as many as possible, they're going to reward you for that. But also at the same time, using ad extensions gets you a higher click-through rate, which means that you are going to show up higher on the page. So essentially, the long story short of it is just to use ad extensions. So let me actually show you a quick little example of what they look like. If you've ever seen ads that look like this, they got the links right here. These are what are called site link extensions. They have a phone number here. That's a call extension. And there's a bunch of different other ones. Those are a quick little, overview of them. And what we'll actually do right now is I will jump into the campaign again, and I will show you where to find the extensions, how to set them up, and do all that. So in order to actually set up our extensions, what we need to do is, usually what I do is I go up to the campaign level here. So I'm going to select our campaign. And then if we go over to ads and extensions and then select extensions, we can click on that. And then if you don't have any extensions set up, you should see a page that looks something like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to hit this plus icon up here, and you're going to see all the different types of extensions that you can use. I'm not going to go through every single one of these because that would take too long, but I'm just going to go through the ones that you should absolutely set up on your account. So site link extensions is the first one I would recommend. The only thing with this, and you can see this Junk Luggers right here has it set up for themselves. What this does is it links out to other pages. I would recommend setting this up if you have multiple landing pages, because it used to be that you could just send all of these links to the same landing page, but Google changed that. So I would, have, for example, it could be, furniture removal, it'll link out to the furniture removal landing page. If you have appliance removal, link it to the appliance removal landing page, and so on and so forth. Set that up, have those linked out to other landing pages that you have set up. Call out extensions, it's essentially just giving you some extra text that you can put on your ad. And these can be, other little call to actions, other little benefits for your business, but always set these up because, again, it's just some more keywords, more text that you can add that kind of takes up some more space. Going back to our list here, we have structured snippets, similar to callouts, but you can select a little category here. So you could do something like service catalog and then put in, furniture removal, appliance, mattress, yard waste removal, whatever the case may be. Drop those in here. Or you could also do the same thing with the call out extension. Either way works. This is probably the most important one, the call extension. And you can see right here, Junk Luggers has this on this one, on their ad rather. And this is really important for mobile because you're going to get more leads from people just clicking the phone number and calling. It's not going to be like the majority of your leads, but even if it sends you an extra 5 to 7 leads a month from having this extension set up, it is absolutely worth it. Pretty much what you want to do is the phone number that's going to be on your landing page, you're just going to paste it right in here. And, it could be your business phone number, your call tracking phone number, whatever you have set up on your landing page, you need to have it here. And the biggest thing with this is you need to have this phone number that you paste here match up to like the number on your landing page, because Google is actually going to check your landing page to make sure you have the phone number on there. So call extension, absolutely set that up. You'll get more leads from it, and it'll be good. So don't skip that one. Don't skip call extension. And then the last one I would recommend is the location extension. Now with this one, you need to have a Google My Business listing set up. And then you need to link the Google My Business listing to the Google Ads account. And you can essentially display it underneath your ad as your physical address. And again, that will just kind of, take up more space on the page, make you a little bit more noticeable, but it'll also show people, hey, this is a local business that's located near them. So that's the kind of the gist of call extensions. Like I said, I'm not going to go through all of these and set them all up. There's going to be a ton of articles out there online, a ton of videos going through each one of these and kind of explaining them a bit more. But again, go through and set up site link, call out, structured snippet. Definitely always set up call extension, set up location extension, and that is pretty much what I would focus on there. So next thing we're going to cover before we actually make things live is we need to go over actually setting up conversion tracking on the account, because if we don't have the conversion tracking set up, we have no idea what's going to be working. We have no idea what keywords are leading to phone calls, etc. So before we actually go live with everything, we need to make sure conversion tracking is set up on the account. There is actually one more extension that we didn't cover, just because it wasn't actually in the ad account when we were going through. So not every single ad account is going to have this one yet. It's pretty new. It got released, I believe, in May of this year, I want to say. either May or June of this year. So it's very new. It's the image extension. And as you might expect, it allows you to actually add an image onto your ads on mobile. And you can kind of do a little bit more research on it here. Obviously, I can't really do the setup of it here. I can't really show you what it looks like because I don't have the option of it. So your ad account may or may not have it. If you do have the option for an image extension, definitely test it out. I have it enabled on at least one of the accounts that I've got going right now, and I'm seeing that the click-through rates are pretty good from it. But again, test it out, see how it works. But wanted to throw this in there as well to kind of talk a little bit about that. And now that that's out of the way, now let's actually go on to the conversion tracking setup. So before we actually get our campaign running, we need to make sure we have conversion tracking set up on our landing pages for phone calls and form fills. And then we also need to make sure that we have conversion tracking set up for that call extension that we set up. So this is a pretty simple process, but I'm not going to do the step-by-step setup in this video, mainly because these exact steps are really going to be dependent upon how you're building out your landing pages, what platform you're using. So I didn't want to do that and then, have you be on something else and have things not really make sense. And also this video has gone on pretty long already, so I don't want to take up too much more time. So my recommendation is to I hate to say just Google it, but it's very simple. You essentially just need to copy some code onto your website. There's no like custom coding involved or anything like that. You copy a couple pieces of code, put them on your website, copy a piece of code, put it on your thank you page, and then the call extension conversion tracking is really easy. You just click a couple buttons. As long as your call extension is set up properly, you can get that set up no problem. So this is one of those things that is kind of non-negotiable. You definitely need to set this up on your account, because if you don't have conversion tracking set up, you're not going to know what's working and what isn't working on your account. So there's 3 different types of conversion tracking you want to set up. You want to get your call extension conversion tracking set up. You want to set up conversion tracking for those form fills. So people that come to the site and put in their name, phone number, name, email, phone number, and then their little message. And then you want to get call tracking set up for the landing page phone call. So conversion tracking for that as well. And that's anybody who hits the landing page and then calls this phone number. So in order to actually get to the place where you set that up from pretty much anywhere on your account, you want to hit this little tools icon right here. Go to measurement, go to conversions. And then this is where you're going to set up all your conversion tracking. If you haven't done anything here, there's probably going to be a little blurb with like a start button. So you're either just going to hit that start button, hit this little blue plus arrow, and then it will start the process very similarly to how you were setting up your campaign. So if you're going to do the form fill conversion, it's going to be here under website. And then the call extension conversion tracking and the landing page phone call conversion tracking is going to be under phone calls. And if you need any guidance on how to set this up, there are a ton of articles by Google. I just Googled install conversion tracking Google Ads, and they have a bunch of articles you can go through. It'll probably be a lot easier if you went to YouTube and said, typed in, if you're using lead pages, like how to set up Google Ads conversion tracking lead pages. That's kind of how I would go about it. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Again, I don't want to go too in the weeds with this because the process could be different for yourself. But that is the next thing you got to get set up before we get these campaigns going. So once that's all set up, our next steps are pretty much just going to be, if you have not already, is to pretty much rinse and repeat this entire process to get all of your keywords up there, get all your ad groups up there, get all your ads up there, and have everything built out pointing to the right landing pages before you actually click go on the account. And then essentially you're going to get your campaign up and running and start gathering data. You're going to pretty much let it run for about like a week, and then we will move on to the next process, which is optimization. But to actually get your campaign live, it's actually very, very simple. Let's get back to the home page here. So once you have everything set up, if you go in your campaign, you're going through and you've got all your ad groups here. Mine is glitching a little bit, so let me refresh it. But once you have all your ad groups in there, you've got all your keywords, you've got all of your ads. Once this loads up. All right, so now that it is actually loaded up, the way you want to actually get your campaign running is if we go up here to all campaigns, it'll add a little option here in the bar here. So now we can actually see our campaigns from this view. And all you're going to do is there's this little drop down next to this little circle here. Click that, and then you can hit enable. And now your campaign will be running. Your ads will be submitted for approval, but only do this once you feel like you have enough of your ad groups in there, you got all your keywords and ads and everything. But that's how you enable your campaign. And then if you want to pause your campaign, turn it off, whatever, same thing, hit the little down arrow and then hit pause. One thing I would definitely recommend is never remove a campaign, especially if you've invested money into it, just because that could be valuable data that you can use later. But that is how you get your campaign going. And once that campaign has been going for about a week, we can move on to actually optimizing that campaign. And I'll show you a really quick and simple framework you can use to optimize on a weekly basis. So if you've had your campaign running for at least a week, you're going to want to start moving on to optimization. Now, this is essentially where a lot of the progress is going to be made moving forward. And the whole idea with optimization is you don't just build out a Google Ads account, let it run, and then just walk away. There's still a lot more work that needs to be done, and you need to be going in there on a regular basis, looking at the data, figuring out what's working, what isn't working. And essentially the whole process with Google Ads is kind of stacking those incremental changes bit by bit over time, so that you can get an ad account working as best as it possibly can. And, I could go down the rabbit hole with this, but I'm going to try and keep it as simple and focused as possible. But there's this idea of statistical significance, and I'm not going to give some really complex answer of a definition of that, because to be honest, I don't know the exact definition of it. But the whole idea is before you can actually make a change on an account with any amount of confidence, you need to have a good enough data before you make any changes. If you try something once and it doesn't work, it doesn't mean that it just doesn't work. Like if you are doing cold outreach and you hit up 10 people and nobody gets back to you, it doesn't mean cold outreach doesn't work. It just means you don't have enough data to say that it does or does not work. So this idea kind of applies to everything on the account, whether it's keywords, ads, which devices your ads are showing on, ad schedule. The whole thing is you need to run enough data through your account so that you can actually make a call on what works or what doesn't work. So if you have like an ad that gets one click and you don't get a lead from that one click, it doesn't mean the ad is broken, doesn't mean the account is broken, you just don't have enough data yet. And these are some rough ranges that I try to stick to figure out if something's working or not working. These are not set in stone by any means. I'm sure a lot of people will debate these, and to be honest, they're probably not officially statistically significant based on the definition of statistical significance. But the whole idea, again, is you just need to get data before actually making a call. If you're looking at keywords, you want to try and get at least like 10 clicks on a keyword before you rule it out and say like, all right, that keyword doesn't work. And there's some gray area there as well. So don't, take these as this is exactly what it needs to be. But, the whole thing is just there's not an exact number. You need enough data before you make any knee-jerk decisions. So I'm going to jump into an account that is running right now, and I'm going to show you, what I can show you about where to find these 5 different areas that you can focus on for now. There's a ton of different areas that we can go into the account and optimize, but let's just focus on these 5 so you can understand the process, understand what you're looking for, and then once you understand how to do these 5 things, you can then apply it to other areas of the account. So let's jump over to account now and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the search terms report. And this is where you are going to figure out if your traffic that you're generating is good or not. So going back to the 4 pillars, this is where you're going to diagnose if your traffic is actually quality or not. And if you're seeing really bad search terms showing up here, then that's a good indication that your search quality is not where it needs to be. So let me jump over into this account really quick. So the way you're going to find your search terms, and this is essentially what these are pretty much like what search terms are triggering your ads and then getting clicks. So this is what somebody actually searched when they clicked on your ad and then either converted or didn't convert. And the way you find this is you click on your campaign, go under keywords, and then come down to search terms and it'll pull up this list. Now keep in mind, it's not going to pull up everything because there are a lot of, like data privacy things and all that kind of stuff. So you're not going to get every single little thing, but you're going to get a good amount, and you're going to be able to figure out, is this traffic actually quality or not? And usually what I do is I'll do this on like a weekly basis. So you can come over to the calendar here and I'll select like the past week so that I can actually go through and kind of trim away any garbage keywords and add good keywords on a weekly basis. So what you're going to be doing is every single week I go through here on whatever account I'm on, and the first thing I look for is I look at what search terms led to conversions, and then I actually add those keywords onto the account. Because if something converted, You want to add that in because if it's a good keyword and people convert when they search that, you want to be showing up for that as much as possible. So what I'll do is, and it's a good thing I actually haven't done this for the week yet, I'll go through, I'll sort it by conversions, and then I see this is a good search right here, haul junk away near me. What I would do is actually just click on this, and you can hit as add as keyword, and then I literally just drop it into the campaign as an exact match keyword. And hit save, and now you have added that keyword onto your campaign. And if somebody searches this next time, then there's a pretty good chance they'll convert. Same thing with this, junk removal now, somebody converted, do the same process again, click on it, add as a keyword. What else do we have here? Junk haul away is one that I have not added before. That's another good one. I would click that, add as keyword, same process. Now, this is also really, really, really important for negative keywords. So if you see that you're showing up for things you don't want to be seeing, showing up for rather, this is where you'd start adding all that stuff in. So I've already done this, I believe last week. There's some search terms in here. So here's a good example. Where to dump old furniture near me. We don't want to be showing up for that because that person's probably looking for like a recycling yard, not lard. They're probably looking for a recycling yard, and we don't want to be showing up for that. So in this case, what I did is I pretty much clicked this, and instead of adding as a keyword, you can add as a negative keyword. And usually what I do is I hit the campaign level. So I click that, and there's a lot of different things you can do with this. Usually what I'll do is I'll exclude this exact keyword, but also I'll go back and then add this in as kind of different variations. Because if I see, if somebody's searching for, where to dump blah, 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 you can add in where to dump as a phrase match. So that way, anybody who searches, where to dump old furniture, where to dump old appliances, anything like that, you're not going to show up for that. So that's another example there of the negative keyword stuff. And that's pretty much the whole process with this. Very similar to keyword research, but it's almost kind of in reverse. Here's another example of one that I excluded. Where can I take junk near me? So again, somebody probably looking for recycling yard, trash yard, whatever. And same process, click on it, add as negative keyword, and then if there's any other variations or things you can pull out of this, like where can I, things like that, I'll usually exclude that because that's sort of a blanket phrase that somebody would search when they're looking, not necessarily for somebody to come pick up junk. So that is the search terms report, super, super important. This is also where you're figure out if your traffic is quality, if it's not quality, and this is the first thing I would do on a weekly basis to optimize your account. All right, this next one should be pretty straightforward. We're going to be talking about keywords, and this is essentially the process of identifying keywords that are not working and then just trimming the fat, essentially. So if I switch over to our account here, I've just pulled data on this account for a good amount of time here. The whole idea is you want to go through your keywords, see what is generating a statistically significant amount of clicks. So for example, like if something's generated 1 click here, like mattress removal, 1 click, 0 conversions, I can't really make a call on whether this keyword works or not. But let's see, I've trimmed out some up here. So junk removal, just phrase match junk removal. I had 6 clicks, no conversions. I just trimmed it out. It's a little bit early on that one. But that's kind of the process. A lot of these, they've been trimmed and they're working pretty well. This one's a little bit low. It's 18%, but these other ones are pretty solid with the conversion rate here. But this part is pretty easy. It's just looking at what is converting and what's not. And if something's not converting or not leading to either quality leads, cheap enough leads, whatever, you want to trim it out. Like this one's a little bit low, but I'll probably leave it in. This one I had 6 with no conversions. I just trimmed it. This one, 5 no conversions, trimmed it. And, as these keywords down here start getting more traffic, like some have conversions, some don't. Again, too early to make a call on these. I'm going to let these get more traffic. Like let's say this one hits 5 clicks, 7 clicks, 10 clicks, and nobody's turned into a lead from that. I'm just going to trim this keyword out. Because we want to have more of the high performing keywords, and you're going to end up with a good list between, what you keep in here and then also what you add to the search terms report. So that's the keyword side of things. I would do this every week. It kind of depends on how much traffic you're running through your account to figure out, what's working and what's not. But, depending on the budget, I would like to do this every single week. So the next thing you'll probably want to keep an eye on are your device bids. Now, essentially what this refers to is where, like what device your ads are running on. So whether it's mobile, desktop, tablet, and then adjusting the bids based on how they're performing on different devices. So I've actually switched over to a different account here because I have a little bit more data here, and can give you a bit more accurate picture of what this might look like. So let's say you've run your campaign for a little while, and this is something you don't want to do every single week. I would do this probably, depending on how much traffic you're running through your campaign, every couple weeks, every month. Just keep an eye on it, make an adjustment here and there. So you want to select your campaign. Then you want to come down here to devices. If devices isn't showing up, there will probably be a little plus arrow here. Hit that plus arrow, and then devices should show up. And what you're going to see is something like this. You're going to see mobile phones, computers, tablets. And the whole idea here, just pretty similar to keywords, everything like that, is to make adjustments based on what is converting well and what is not converting well. And what you do is essentially you have this little column here that says bid adjustments. For this particular campaign, I just hit this, I hit decrease and hit 100%. That essentially removes tablets from this campaign. So the ads aren't going to show up on tablets. I usually do that on campaigns. It's not necessary, but I find that mobile phones and computers will convert better. Mobile phones, in my experience, usually convert better than computers every time. But the whole idea here is I come in here and I see, okay, mobile phones are converting better than computers. What I'm doing here with this bid adjustment is I'm telling Google, okay, if somebody is searching on their phone, I want to increase my bids by 10% to that person, searching on their phone. So that way my ads have a higher chance of showing up for that person, because we want more of that traffic. If somebody converts at a higher rate on their phone, we want to show up for more of those searches. Same thing with computers. Go in here, bid adjustment minus 10%. It's the exact opposite. So I'm telling Google, if somebody's looking on their computer, decrease our bids by 10% on computers. Main reason being for that is because they don't convert as much, and also our cost per lead is a little bit higher on that device. And this is also in a different space, so these are not don't take these as junk removal numbers, but that's the whole idea with devices. You want to see what's working, what's not. Same thing as keywords. Allocate more money to what works more, allocate less money to what doesn't work as well. And then in a lot of cases, I just take tablets out. But they can work. Don't rule them out. Again, it's all about testing. So that is device bids. All right, let's move on to ad copy. So this is essentially just creating new versions of your ads and sort of iterating on what is performing well, and essentially, doing more of what works, less of what doesn't. So let's switch over here. And I'm actually going to have to blur out these ads because I don't want to, give away my clients' stuff. But I just pulled up a little bit of data here so I can show you what the thought process is and how I kind of approach things. So, you might be able to do this on a weekly basis. If not, again, give it a bit more time before you start making these changes. So usually what I'll do is I'll go ad group by ad group. And in this case, go to the campaign. I clicked this ad group right here. And I included, ads that I've actually paused. So this one up here is paused and this one down here is paused, just so I can show you more data here. But the whole idea is, just like the keywords, just like everything else, run data through it. And the most important thing you want to look at here is this cost per conversion and conversion rate. Because you're actually going to notice that the cost per click on these two ads that are live is actually higher than the ones that are paused. But if you'll notice, this one down here, again, it's not that much data. It didn't convert as well as these ones are converting. So what I'm looking for is, obviously I want to see a higher click-through rate. But ultimately what I'm looking for is what's the conversion rate and what's the cost per conversion. And I'm essentially finding out which one of these versions converts the best, which one of these versions performs the best, and then pretty much doing this same as like how you were creating ads, do copy and edit, create a new version of it, and then essentially it's kind of a game at that point. You're trying to beat whatever the other ads performance is. So if I'm looking at this right now, this one right here seems to be outperforming this one by quite a bit in terms of conversion rate and cost per conversion, but I'm going to get more data running through these before I actually make those changes. But that's ads, just like everything else. It's just get some data going through it, figure out what's giving you the best cost per conversion and conversion rate, and then iterate on it, make new ads, and essentially just try to keep beating this number, and you'll see good results. All right, so the last one we'll talk about is ad schedule, and it works very, very similar to how device bids worked. So let's switch back over here. And in order to see the ad schedule after you've set it up, is usually just go to the campaign level. And just like, devices, this is one where you definitely want to run more data through it. And on this particular account, I actually haven't started making any of those bid adjustments, but I'll kind of walk you through my thought process when I do start making them. So go to the campaign, you're going to come down here, and then right above devices, you're going to see ad schedule. Again, if you don't see anything, you're probably going to see something like that. Hit the little plus, and it should be there. So hit ad schedule, and you're going to see something that looks like this. So again, very similar to device bids. And usually what I do is I'll either sort it by conversion rate or cost per conversion. And the whole idea here is you're trying to gather enough data to see which days of the week perform better than others. So as you can see here, my best performing day on this account is Thursday, and the worst performing is Friday, followed by Wednesday. But I'm starting to get enough data here where in this case I would probably up my bids by a little bit on Thursday, and then I probably wouldn't really decrease my bids on Friday because this is still, these numbers are still pretty solid. If this was like performing really bad, I would probably decrease the bids. But I'd much rather, just keep these where they are and then probably allocate more money here. And the biggest thing with making bid adjustments is make them bit by bit. I'd probably start this by bumping it up by like 5%. Don't go straight to like 50% or something, because that can really confuse Google in a lot of ways. If you make too many of those massive bid adjustment changes, the account can get kind of wonky, and then you're going to be sitting there kind of thinking like, what happened, So try to do it bit by bit, 5% at a time. Same thing with device, go 5% at a time. And then just, if it keeps performing well, throw a bit more money towards it. So you want to make sure you're showing up, for the, on the devices that you convert the best, on the days you convert the best, have your best ads out there. And that's pretty much it. So let me switch back to the presentation real quick. So that is kind of like the 1,000-foot overview of optimization. Again, there's so many different things you can go into on the account, but I'm not going to go into them in this video because that would take far longer. But just focus on these areas, and these are probably going to be the biggest levers you can pull. And again, it's just gather data, make the changes, continue to make improvements, and you should see your account improve more and more and more. And one last thing I wanted to leave on is, bring it back to this whole idea of the 4 pillars, because there's a pretty good chance you might launch your campaign and things might not work out at the start. If you're in that position, this is sort of like how I troubleshoot almost everything I'm working on, because, for myself, things don't always work out either. So, if I have an account that isn't performing the way I want it, I start thinking about these 4 things. And when you kind of simplify it down, you get a little less overwhelmed with the whole Google Ads platform. You just have to look at these different parts and ask yourself, is the account structure good? Is my traffic good? Are my ads getting clicked on, or are my landing pages converting? And this will help you kind of figure out what's good, what's bad. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for this video. Let me actually get my camera back on here. So that's it. That took a lot longer than I expected. I hope it was valuable. When I started on this, I thought this was going to be like a 30-minute video. It was not a 30-minute video, but I hope you got value out of it. I hope you learned something. And if you have a keen eye, you probably noticed I got a haircut at this point. That's how long this video took me to put together. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you want more of that kind of content, I'm going to be putting more out on YouTube. So make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, all that kind of YouTube-y stuff. If you would like to connect with me, in the description below, I'm going to put my personal Facebook page, Instagram page, LinkedIn page. And if you are running Google Ads right now and you're looking for somebody to give you kind of like a second opinion on what you're doing, I do offer free Google Ads audits. And pretty much what that is I go through the account, do a video kind of like this where I actually give you tips and tricks and pointers and give you kind of like an action plan that you can implement for yourself to improve the performance on your account. So that is it for this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you want to connect with me, hit those links below. And I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks.